morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from 1880 town in South Dakota. Today's verse is 1 Peter 1:6. In this you greatly rejoice, even though now, for a little while, if necessary, you have been distressed by various trials. In this you greatly rejoice. Well, in what? In last week's verse, and I have the link up there, that is a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. We are saved right now, but it's not revealed yet. However, since we know that salvation is coming, we can rejoice now for something that's going to happen in the future. That's the hope that we have. And remember, hope is a sure thing. It's not iffy. It is a sealed deal. But the meat of today's verse is the rest of it. Even though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been distressed by various trials. Notice it says, if necessary. Yes, some of us suffer more than others. And you may look at this guy and say, hey, he's not suffering as much as I am. And that might seem unfair, but God knows what's right for every person. And besides that, he's the potter and we're the clay, and he can do what he wants. Sometimes we suffer for our own good to learn a lesson, but sometimes we also suffer for the sake of the kingdom of heaven and to bring glory to God. So let's look at this. It says that for a little while we've been distressed by various trials. In the ultimate sense, it is just a little while in the eternal sense. So let's look at a couple of examples, shall we? The first one is in 1 Corinthians 11, starting in 23. It's Paul and his very minor sufferings. He says, are they servants of Christ? I speak as if insane. I more so, in far more labors, in far more imprisonments, beaten times without number, often in danger of death. 5 times I have received from the Jews 39 lashes. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I have spent in the deep. I have been on frequent journeys, in dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my countrymen, dangers from the Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in the wilderness, dangers on the sea, dangers among false brethren. I have been in labor and hardship, through many sleepless nights, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposure. And this same Paul, in the same letter, says this in chapter 4, verse 17, for momentary light affliction is producing for us an eternal weight of glory far beyond all comparison. Even Paul thought that all of that suffering was momentary light affliction. I don't know about you. I have not suffered anywhere near as much as Paul has, so I have no right to complain about the minor trials in my life. Now, sometimes these trials will bring glory to God, and it's unfair, but it's bringing glory to God. Let's look at a couple of examples. The first one is Acts chapter 5. In this chapter, the disciples are jailed for preaching Jesus in the temple. Then the angel breaks them out of jail. They go right back to the temple and start preaching again. And they had this fight in the Sanhedrin Council, and they end up flogging these disciples, beating them with whips, right? And in verse 41, after they were flogged, so they went on their way from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they had been considered worthy to suffer shame for his name. If I'm going to be beaten, I hope it's not for my own stupidity, but rather that it's the glory to his name. One last one is Acts chapter 16. Starting in verse 25, at about midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns of praise to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. They're singing praise to God in prison. And there was an earthquake, the walls break down. They could escape, but they don't. Neither do any of the other prisoners. And that incredible act of rejoicing during suffering ends up saving the jailer and the jailer's family. Now, that's bringing glory to God. So don't worry about light affliction. It's going to be over in no time. Let's choose to love every moment. Then we're going to love every moment. I'm your average Dredge. Hope you have a great week.